My name is Riley and I'm 32 years old. The day I discovered my husband's wallet in my sister's bedroom, I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. But as I stood there gazing at his wedding ring on her nightstand, I had no idea that the affair was just the beginning. What I was about to uncover was far more devastating than infidelity. It was a calculated plan to destroy everything I had. If you're watching this, leave a comment on where you're from. Smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about betrayal, justice, and the strength to rebuild. The morning Daniel left for work, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, just this gnawing sensation in my chest, like when you forget something important but can't remember what. He kissed my forehead like always, grabbed his coffee like usual, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Not once. And when he picked up his wallet from the counter, he held it differently. Tighter, like he was afraid I'd see inside it. "You okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just running late," he said, already halfway out the door. But he wasn't late. I'd watched him take his time with breakfast, scrolling through his phone with this small, secretive smile I didn't recognize. When the door closed behind him, the house felt hollower than usual. I stood there in the kitchen, coffee mug hitting my hands, wondering why my own husband felt like a ghost. Our marriage had been steady, not perfect but fine. We'd had our rough patches over the past year, little arguments about nothing, nights where we'd go to bed without saying much. I told myself every couple goes through phases. But lately, Daniel had been distant in a way that felt deliberate, like he was pulling away on purpose, creating space between us that I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. I tried to push away the feeling as I got ready for the day. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe I was just stressed from work. But as I brushed my teeth and stared at my reflection, I couldn't ignore the pressure in my chest. Something was shifting beneath the surface of my life, and I was terrified to find out what. Around noon, I decided to reach out to my sister Chloe. We used to have lunch together all the time, just the two of us, laughing over salads and trading stories about our lives. She was my closest friend, the person who knew me better than anyone, or at least I thought she did. I texted her, "Lunch today? I could use some sister time." The reply came fast. "Can today swamped with work. Rain check." It was the third time this month she'd cancelled on me. Chloe worked in marketing and sure, she stayed busy, but she'd never been too busy for me before. We'd always made time for each other, even during her craziest deadlines. The distance between us felt new, uncomfortable, like a door slowly closing that I hadn't noticed until now. I stared at her message, feeling an ache I couldn't quite name. Was I being paranoid? Probably, but I couldn't help wondering why everyone in my life suddenly felt just out of reach. By mid-afternoon, Daniel texted me, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I read it 3 times. He'd been working late a lot recently. Too much, really. But it was the way he texted it that bothered me. Cold, formal. He even used a period at the end, something he never did. Daniel was the kind of guy who texted in all lowercase with way too many exclamation points. This message felt like it came from someone else entirely. I tried calling him. No answer. I sent a follow-up text. "Everything okay?" Nothing, just silence. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting. I opened my laptop, pulled up spreadsheets, answered emails, but none of it stuck. My thoughts kept circling back to Daniel's strange behavior, Chloe's sudden unavailability, and this gnawing feeling that something was profoundly, irreversibly wrong. Around 3, I met my best friend Lena for coffee. She took one look at me and frowned. "You look exhausted," she said, sinking into the booth across from me. I did. Just a weird day. Lena studied me for a moment, then hesitated. "Riley, can I ask you something?" "Of course." Have you noticed anything off with Daniel lately? My stomach dropped. Why do you ask? She bit her lip, clearly uncomfortable. I saw his car the other day. Tuesday, I think. It was parked on Maple Street, just sitting there. I almost waved, but then I realized he wasn't in it. Maple Street, I repeated slowly. Yeah, over by Chloe's apartment, I finished. Lena's face confirmed what I already knew. Maple Street was 2 blocks from where my sister lived. My husband's car parked near my sister's apartment on a Tuesday afternoon when he was supposed to be at work. I'm sure it's nothing, Lena said quickly. Maybe he was visiting a client in the area or something. But her voice didn't sound sure, and neither was I. I left the coffee shop in a daze, Lena's words echoing in my head. I tried to think of innocent explanations. Maybe Daniel had stopped by to drop something off for Chloe. Maybe he'd been running errands nearby. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the more the pieces started fitting together in ways I didn't want to acknowledge. Daniel's new cologne, the one he had started wearing a month ago that smelled expensive and unfamiliar. The way he'd been deleting text messages, claiming he needed to clear storage on his phone. The late nights, the distance, the secrets. And Chloe, my sister, who used to tell me everything, who suddenly didn't have time for me anymore. I drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel. When I pulled into our driveway, the house looked the same as it always did. Neat lawn, white shutters, the home we'd bought together 3 years ago. But it felt different now, like I was seeing it through new eyes. Inside, I tried to distract myself. I cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, organized the bookshelf, but nothing worked. My mind kept spinning, connecting dots I desperately wanted to believe weren't there. At 6, I called Daniel again. This time, he didn't pick up, but I watched the read receipts on my messages. He was reading them. He just wasn't responding. That's when I noticed something. My phone was dying and my charger wasn't in its usual spot by the bed. I searched the house, growing increasingly frustrated until I remembered Chloe had borrowed my spare charger a few weeks ago. She needed it for some work trip and promised to return it. The thought of that charger sparked something in me, a reason, an excuse to go see her. I grabbed my keys without thinking and drove to Chloe's apartment. The streets blurred past me as I tried to calm my racing heart. This was ridiculous. I was being paranoid. I'd show up, get my charger, maybe have a quick chat, and realize I'd been worrying over nothing. But when I pulled up to her building, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The lights in her apartment were dim. I could see them through the window, soft and low, like she was trying to set a mood. The living room looked pristine through the glass, almost staged. Too perfect, too quiet. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I reached her door, I hesitated, my hand hovering over the handle. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave. Part of me knew that once I opened this door, everything would change. I knocked softly. Chloe? No answer. I tried the handle, unlocked. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Chloe, it's me. Still nothing. The apartment felt eerily still, like it was holding its breath. I walked through the living room, past the immaculate couch and the coffee table with its single decorative candle. Everything looked normal, too normal. I told myself to leave, to text Chloe and ask about the charger later, but my feet kept moving, carrying me down the hallway toward her bedroom. Some instinct I couldn't name pushed me forward, even as my mind screamed at me to stop. I reached her bedroom door and paused. From inside, I heard something, a faint sound, barely audible. Voices, quiet and hushed, like people trying not to be heard. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. Every rational thought told me to walk away, to leave this alone, to protect myself from whatever I was about to find. But I couldn't. I had to know. I opened the door. And there on Chloe's nightstand, right next to her lamp and a half-empty glass of wine, sat Daniel's wallet. And beside it, gleaming in the low light, was his wedding ring. The world stopped. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at that wallet and ring like they were objects from another dimension. My brain tried desperately to make sense of what I was seeing, to find some innocent explanation that would make this okay. Maybe Daniel had stopped by earlier and forgotten them. Maybe Chloe was holding onto them for safekeeping. Maybe this was all some bizarre misunderstanding that would make sense when someone explained it to me. But the ring? The ring destroyed every excuse my mind tried to create. Daniel never took off his wedding ring. Never. He told me once that it made him feel naked without it, that he liked the weight of it, reminding him he was married to me. And now it sat on my sister's nightstand like it meant nothing at all. From somewhere behind the bathroom door, I heard voices, quiet, intimate. One was unmistakably Chloe's. That laugh she did when she was flirting, breathy and performative. The other voice was lower, masculine, saying something I couldn't quite make out. Please be someone else, I thought desperately. Please be Adam, her fiancé. Please be anyone, but I knew. Deep in my bones, I already knew. My hand moved to my phone in my pocket. Instead of barging in, instead of screaming and confronting them, something in me shifted. I needed evidence. I needed proof. I needed to be absolutely certain before I blew up my entire life. I quietly stepped back from the bedroom, my heart hammering so violently I thought they'd hear it through the walls. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and hit record, holding it toward the bathroom door. Chloe's voice came through clearly. We need to be quick. She could come any minute. My stomach turned to ice. A man's voice replied, muffled but audible. She won't. I told her I'm working late. Daniel. That was Daniel's voice. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from making a sound. The phone trembled in my grip as I kept recording, capturing every word, every terrible second of confirmation. I backed out of the bedroom, carefully, quietly, like I was defusing a bomb. My mind was screaming, my vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. But I forced myself to move slowly, deliberately. I needed to get out before they saw me, before they knew I knew. In the kitchen, I noticed details I'd missed when I first walked in. 2 wine glasses by the sink, both half empty and stained with lipstick on one, and nothing on the other. A men's shirt draped over the back of a dining chair, dark gray, expensive looking, exactly the kind Daniel had started buying recently. And that cologne, his cologne, hanging in the air like evidence I could breathe. Everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This had been going on for a while, long enough for them to get comfortable, to get careless, to leave pieces of their betrayal scattered around like they owned the space together. My sister and my husband, my sister and my husband. The thought repeated in my mind like a broken record, each repetition driving the knife deeper into my chest. I pulled out my phone again, my hands steadier now, fueled by something colder than shock. I scrolled to Adam's number, Chloe's fiancé, the man who loved her, who was planning to marry her in 6 months, who had no idea his future wife was in that bathroom with my husband. I typed quickly. You need to get here now. Chloe's apartment. I hit send before I could second guess myself. His reply came within seconds. What's wrong? Is she okay? I stared at the message, my throat tight. How could I explain this? How could I tell him that no, she wasn't okay? That none of us were okay? That everything we thought we knew was a lie? I typed. Just come. Please don't tell her, I texted. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, I'm 10 minutes away. Riley, you're scaring me. I'm scared too, I sent back. Then I added, don't go inside alone. wait for me outside. I couldn't let him walk in unprepared. I couldn't let him experience that same knife twist of discovery without someone there who understood. We were both victims of the same betrayal, and somehow that made us allies. I slipped out of the apartment as quietly as I'd entered, closing the door with barely a click. In the hallway, I pressed my back against the wall and finally let myself feel it. The shock, the disbelief, the soul crushing weight of what I just uncovered. But I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. Not here. I walked down the stairs and stood outside the building, the cool evening air hitting my face like a slap. My phone buzzed. Adam calling. I answered. "I'm almost there," he said, his voice tight with worry. "Riley, what's going on?" "When you get here, I'll show you," I said quietly. "But Adam, I'm so sorry. I'm so, so sorry." "Sorry for what?" His voice cracked slightly. "Riley, you're freaking me out." "I know. Just get here." I ended the call and waited, watching the windows of Chloe's apartment like they might explode at any moment. I could see movement through the frosted glass. Two shadows, too close together, moving in a way that made my stomach turn. Minutes felt like hours. I stood there cold and numb, replaying everything in my head. Every strange moment from the past few months suddenly made horrible sense. Daniel's distance, Chloe's excuses, the way they'd both been acting like I was the problem, like I was being needy or paranoid for wanting their time and attention. They'd made me feel crazy. They'd made me doubt myself. And all along, they'd been doing this. Adam's car pulled up fast, tires squealing slightly as he parked. He jumped out, looking frantic and pale. "Riley," I held up Daniel's wallet and wedding ring. I'd grabbed them on my way out, unable to leave them there like evidence of my own stupidity. Adam stared at them, his face going white. No, that's not. "It was on her nightstand," I said quietly. "And they're in there together right now." His mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. I watched him process it, so the same sequence of denial and realization that I'd just gone through crash over his features. "I heard them," I continued, my voice steady despite everything. "I recorded it. They're in the bathroom. They think we don't know." Adam's hands curled into fists, his jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscles jumping. "I'm going to kill him." "No," I said firmly. "You're going to knock on that door, and we're going to make them face what they've done." He looked at me, eyes blazing with hurt and fury. Then he nodded once, sharp and decisive. We climbed the stairs together, two people united by betrayal. Adam's breathing was ragged beside me, his whole body vibrating with barely contained rage. When we reached the door, he didn't hesitate. He pounded on it with his fist, hard enough to make the frame rattle. "Chloe," he shouted, "open the door." From inside, we heard scrambling, panicked voices, things being knocked over, the sounds of people desperately trying to make themselves presentable, trying to hide what couldn't be hidden anymore. Adam pounded again. "I know you're in there. Open this door right now." I stood slightly behind him, my heart racing, every muscle in my body coiled tight. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen that wallet, never heard those voices, never opened this door that couldn't be closed again. But I stayed because I needed to see their faces. I needed them to know that I knew. The door opened. Chloe stood there, hair messed, shirt buttoned wrong, face drained of all color. Her eyes went wide when she saw Adam, then wider when she saw me behind him. "Adam," she breathed. "Riley, this isn't. Where is he?" Adam's voice was deadly quiet. Chloe's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Behind her, I could see into the apartment. And there, emerging from the bedroom, was Daniel, shirt half buttoned, hair disheveled, his face a mask of pure horror when he saw us standing in the doorway. Our eyes met across the space. In that moment, I saw everything. His guilt, his fear, his desperate scramble for an explanation that would never come. Riley, he whispered, taking a step forward. Riley, I can explain. Don't, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Don't you dare. The apartment became a pressure cooker. Adam pushed past Chloe, his hands shaking, his face red with rage and tears he was fighting to hold back. Chloe stumbled backward, her mouth opening and closing as she tried to form words that wouldn't come. Daniel stood frozen by the bedroom doorway, one hand still on his shirt, buttons like he'd been caught mid-motion in a photograph. He stared at me with those eyes I'd loved for 5 years, and I saw a stranger looking back. How long? Adam's voice cut through the silence like a blade. He turned to Chloe, his whole body vibrating. How long has this been going on? Adam, please. Chloe reached for him, but he jerked away from her touch like she'd burned him. Don't touch me, he shouted. Don't you dare touch me. Daniel finally moved, taking a cautious step toward me. Riley, if you'd just let me explain. Explain what? I asked, and my voice came out cold. Colder than I'd ever heard myself sound. Explain why your wedding ring was on my sister's nightstand. Explain why you've been lying to me for months. Explain which part, Daniel. He flinched at the sound of his name. It's not what you think. I actually laughed. It sounded hollow and broken. It's not what I think. I found your wallet. I heard you. I recorded you saying I wouldn't come because you told me you were working late. So, please, tell me what I'm supposed to think. Chloe started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that once upon a time would have made me rush to comfort her. Now, they just made me sick. I never meant for this to happen, she wailed. It just did. Shut up! Adam spun on her, his face twisted with pain. Just shut up with your excuses. You're wearing my engagement ring while you're sleeping with her husband. Chloe looked down at her hand like she'd forgotten the ring was there. She tried to take it off, fumbling with it desperately. But Adam grabbed her wrist. Don't, he said quietly. I'll take it when I'm ready. Right now, I can't even stand to look at you. He released her and turned to Daniel, who took an instinctive step back. For a second, I thought Adam might actually hit him. Part of me wanted him to. You have 5 seconds to get out of this apartment before I do something I'll regret, Adam said, his voice steady but lethal. Daniel looked at me instead, his eyes pleading. Riley, please, can we just talk alone? No, I said simply. Riley, I said no. Something in my tone must have finally gotten through to him because he stopped reaching for me. His hands dropped to his sides, helpless and empty. This didn't mean anything, he tried again, his voice desperate. It was a mistake. A stupid, stupid mistake. Months, I interrupted, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Months of mistakes, because that's what this was, wasn't it? Not one mistake, not one night. Months of you choosing her over me. Months of you lying to my face. Months of you planning this while I was at home thinking we were fine. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for it. I didn't want to cry in front of them. I didn't want them to see how much they had destroyed me. Chloe collapsed onto her couch, still sobbing. Riley, you're my sister. Please, please, you have to understand. Understand what? I walked toward her slowly, deliberately. Understand how you could do this to me? How you could look me in the eye every day and lie? How you could cancel our lunch plans because you were too busy sleeping with my husband? She flinched like I'd slapped her. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Chloe? Tell me. Make me understand how my own sister could betray me like this. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. There was nothing she could say. No words existed that would make this okay. Daniel tried one more time. Riley, I love you. Don't. I held up my hand, stopping him. Don't say that word to me. You don't get to use that word anymore. But I do. You don't. My voice echoed off that Walls. You don't love me. You don't lie to people you love. You don't betray people you love. You don't steal money from joint accounts to pay for hotel rooms with someone else when you love them. His face went even paler. You know about. I know everything, Daniel. I checked our bank statements. I saw the transfers to Chloe's account. I found the receipts. Did you really think I wouldn't notice thousands of dollars disappearing? Adam's head snapped toward Chloe. He gave you money? She wouldn't look at him. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks, but she stayed silent. Answer me, Adam demanded. He gave you our money. While I was working overtime to pay for our wedding, you were taking money from him? It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then, what was it like? He yelled. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you two have been planning this for a while. It looks like I've been nothing but a fool paying for a wedding to a woman who was never actually mine. The apartment felt too small, too hot, too suffocating. I could hear neighbors moving in the hallway outside, probably listening to every word. Part of me was mortified. Part of me was glad. Let them hear. Let everyone know what these two had done. I'm leaving, I said abruptly. I couldn't be in this room anymore, breathing the same air as them. Daniel moved to block the door. Riley, wait. Move, I said quietly. Just let me explain. Move, Daniel. Or I swear to God I'll call the police and tell them you're holding me here against my will. He searched my face, looking for something. Forgiveness, maybe, or a sign that this could be fixed. Whatever he was looking for, he didn't find it. He stepped aside. I walked past him, past Chloe still crying on the couch, past the evidence of their betrayal scattered around the apartment. Adam followed me, but Daniel grabbed my arm in the hallway, his grip desperate. Please, Riley, please. It didn't mean anything, it just happened. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. You chose this, I said quietly. Every time you came here instead of coming home to me, you chose this. Every time you lied about working late, you chose this. Every time you looked me in the eye and made me feel crazy for asking questions, you chose this. So don't tell me it just happened. You made it happen. I pulled my arm free and kept walking. Behind me, I heard him start to follow, but Adam stepped between us. Don't, Adam warned. Just don't. I made it down the stairs and out into the parking lot before my legs started shaking. I leaned against my car, gulping in air, trying to hold myself together. Doors were opening in the building. Faces appeared in windows. Neighbors I'd met at Chloe's parties. People who knew both of us, watching the drama unfold with morbid curiosity. Adam emerged a moment later, his face devastated. He walked past Danielle, who'd followed us down, and went straight to his car. Then he stopped and turned back. The ring, he said to Chloe, who'd appeared in the doorway. I want it back now. She pulled it off with shaking hands and held it out. Adam walked over, took it without touching her, and shoved it in his pocket. We're done, he said simply. Then to me, Riley, do you need someone to follow you home? Make sure you get there safe. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Call me if you need anything, he said. Anything at all. We're in this together now. I nodded. He drove away, leaving Daniel and me alone in the parking lot. Riley, Daniel started. Go back inside, Daniel, I said tiredly. Go back to her. That's what you wanted, isn't it? No, I want you. I want to come home. We don't have a home anymore, I said. You destroyed that. I got in my car and locked the doors. Daniel stood outside talking, pleading, his voice muffled through the glass. I didn't hear any of it. I just started the engine and drove away, watching him shrink in my rear view mirror until he disappeared completely. The drive home was a blur. I don't remember most of it. I just remember pulling into our driveway. My driveway now, I corrected myself, and sitting in the car for what felt like hours. When I finally went inside, the silence was unbearable. Every room held memories of a life I thought I was building. A marriage I thought was real. The kitchen where we'd had coffee this morning. The couch where we'd watched movies. The bed where he'd held me and told me he loved me. All of it felt contaminated now, ruined. I walked through the house in a daze, touching nothing, just looking at the remnants of my life like they belonged to someone else. In the bathroom, I caught sight of myself in the mirror, pale, hollow-eyed, a stranger wearing my face. That's when I finally broke. I slid down the bathroom wall and sobbed, huge gasping cries that tore up my chest. I cried for my marriage. I cried for my sister. I cried for the life I thought I had and the future I thought was waiting. But mostly I cried because I realized I'd been alone for months. I just hadn't known it yet. I woke up on the bathroom floor. My phone said it was 3 o'clock in the morning. My face felt swollen, my throat raw from crying. For a blessed moment, I didn't remember. Then it all came crashing back. I pulled myself up and stumbled to the bedroom. The bed looked too big, too empty. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in it. Instead, I went to the guest room and collapsed on top of the covers, still fully dressed. Sleep didn't come. I lay there staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across the walls as cars passed outside. My mind raced through everything, replaying moments I dismissed or ignored, seeing them now through this new, horrible lens of clarity. Around 5, I gave up on sleep entirely. I went downstairs and made coffee with shaking hands. The house felt different in the pre-dawn darkness, not like home anymore, but like a crime scene. Evidence everywhere, proof of a life that had been a lie. Daniel's laptop was still on the kitchen counter where he'd left it yesterday morning. He never locked it. Always left it open to his email or whatever he'd been working on. I stared at it for a long time before finally opening it. I told myself I wasn't snooping. I was searching for truth, and God, did I find it? His email was a gold mine of betrayal. I started with the obvious, searching for Chloe's name. What I found made my stomach turn. Receipts. Dozens of them. Hotels I'd never heard of. Restaurants I'd never been to. Gifts I'd never received. All charged to our joint credit card. The one we used for household expenses and savings transfers. God. The transfers. Hundreds of dollars. Sometimes thousands. Sent directly to Chloe's account. With labels like loan and helping out. But it wasn't just the money, it was the timeline. The first hotel receipt was dated 6 months ago. 6 months. This wasn't a recent mistake or a moment of weakness. This had been going on for half a year, maybe longer. Half a year of them planning this, coordinating schedules, building a secret life together while I went about my day thinking everything was fine. I scrolled through his texts, or what was left of them. He'd been deleting conversations, but he'd missed some, enough to paint a picture I wish I could unsee. Daniel to Chloe. She suspects nothing. We're safe. Chloe to Daniel. I feel bad sometimes. She is my sister. Daniel to Chloe. Then we'll be more careful. I can't give this up. I can't give you up. I read those words over and over, my coffee going cold in my hand. I can't give you up. Like I was the obstacle. Like I was the problem that needed to be managed. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Lena. I couldn't sleep, she said when I answered. How are you holding up? I'm not, I admitted. My voice sounded hollow. Lena, it's so much worse than I thought. They've been doing this for months. He's been giving her money. Our money. Oh, Riley, her voice cracked with sympathy. I'm coming over. No, it's too early. I'm already in my car. She hung up before I could argue. 20 minutes later, she was at my door with coffee and bagels, taking one look at my face and pulling me into a hug that made me start crying all over again. We sat at the kitchen table while I showed her everything, the receipts, the transfers, the texts. Her face grew darker with each new piece of evidence. This is beyond an affair, she said finally. Riley, he's been stealing from you. That's not love or passion or whatever he's going to try to claim. That's calculated. That's criminal. I hadn't thought of it that way, but she was right. He'd used our joint account, money I'd earned, money I trusted him with, to fund his betrayal. The hotel rooms where he slept with my sister, the gifts he bought her, the loans he'd given her without asking me. You need a lawyer, Lena said. Like yesterday. You need to protect yourself financially before he does. More damage. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Please call me. We need to talk. I love you. I showed it to Lena. She grabbed my phone and blocked his number before I could stop her. You don't need to hear his excuses right now, she said firmly. You need to figure out your next move. While Lena made breakfast, I kept digging through Daniel's laptop. I found a folder labeled Work Projects that I never noticed before. Inside were documents that had nothing to do with work, financial statements, savings account information, and something that made my blood run cold. A comparison of apartment prices in the city, all saved from 3 months ago. He'd been planning to leave, planning to move out, planning a whole life without me before I'd even known something was wrong. The front door opened. I heard Daniel's key in the lock, his footsteps in the hallway. Riley, he called, I know you're here. Your car is in the driveway. Please, we need to talk. Lena stood up, positioning herself between me and the kitchen doorway. She doesn't want to talk to you. Daniel appeared, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. His eyes were red and puffy, his clothes the same ones he'd worn yesterday, his hair sticking up in messy clumps. He looked at me with desperate hope that died when he saw my face. Riley, please, get out, I said quietly. This is my house, too. Get out, Daniel, or I'll call the police. I just want to explain. There's nothing to explain. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I found everything. The hotels, the money, the plans to move out. I know, Daniel, I know all of it. His face crumbled. I can make this right. I'll end things with Chloe. I'll do whatever you want. I'll go to therapy. You'll leave, I said. Right now. I want you out of this house, Daniel. Now. He backed away, hands raised. Okay. But this isn't over. We're not over. I love you. Stop saying that, I said, my voice breaking. You don't get to say that anymore. He left. I heard the door close, heard his car start in the driveway, then silence. Lena sat down next to me, taking my hand. You did the right thing. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you loved him, because you trusted him, because he was supposed to be on your team and he betrayed you in the worst possible way. My phone buzzed again, a different number this time. Chloe's friend, Mara. Can I call you? The text read. I called her back. Mara answered immediately, her voice hesitant and pained. Riley, I'm so sorry. I've been debating calling you for weeks. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was reading too much into things. But after last night, she took a shaky breath. I need you to know this wasn't the first time for Chloe. What do you mean? She has a pattern, Mara said carefully. She's always been competitive with you, even when we were kids. She wanted everything you had. Your grades, your friends, your life. I thought she'd grown out of it, but she hasn't. She's been jealous of you your whole life. That doesn't make sense, I protested. I never competed with her. I always supported her. I know you did, but to Chloe, your happiness was a reminder of what she thought she didn't have. And when you got married to Daniel, God, Riley, she talked about him constantly. How perfect he was, how lucky you were. I thought it was just sister talk, but looking back. She planned this, I said slowly, the realization hitting me. She went after him deliberately. I think so, Mara admitted, and I think Daniel was weak enough to let her. I'm so sorry, Riley. I should have said something sooner. After I hung up, I sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just about Daniel's betrayal. This was about a lifetime of my sister's resentment, culminating in the ultimate theft, taking the man I loved. Another text came through, this time from Adam. He'd sent me screenshots, messages he'd found on Chloe's iPad that she'd forgotten to delete. I opened them, knowing I'd regret it, but unable to stop myself. Chloe to Daniel. She's so naive. She actually thinks we're just going through a rough patch. Daniel to Chloe. It's easier this way. When I'm ready to leave, it'll be cleaner if she doesn't suspect anything. Chloe to Daniel. Sometimes I feel bad for her, but then I remember how easy her life has always been. Daniel to Chloe. She had her chance to make me happy. She failed. That's not our fault. I read every message, each one a new knife in my back. They'd been laughing at me, mocking my trust, planning my pain while I went about my life, thinking my husband loved me and my sister was my best friend. The last screenshot was the worst. Chloe to Daniel. I love you. When this is all over and Riley's out of the picture, we can finally be together for real. Daniel to Chloe. I love you too. Soon, I promise. I dropped my phone like it had burned me. Lena picked it up, read the messages, and immediately pulled me into her arms as I broke down all over again. They deserve each other, she said fiercely. They deserve every miserable moment they're going to have when they realize what they destroyed. But I barely heard her. All I could think about was that phrase, Riley's out of the picture, like I was an obstacle to be removed, like I was nothing. The betrayal wasn't just that Daniel had cheated, it was that he never loved me at all. And my sister, the person I trusted most in the world after my husband, had never seen me as anything more than competition to defeat. I was alone, truly, completely alone in a way I'd never been before, and I had no idea how I was going to survive it. The next morning, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to those bank statements, the missing money, the patterns I'd been too trusting to notice before. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I opened my laptop and started digging deeper. What I found made the affair look almost trivial by comparison. Over the past 6 months, Daniel had withdrawn nearly $15,000 from our joint account. The transactions were small enough not to trigger alerts. $200 here, $500 there, but consistent, methodical, like he planned exactly how much he could take without me noticing. Each withdrawal corresponded with a date I now recognized. Hotel bookings, dinners at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, and transfers directly to Chloe's account, labeled as emergency loans. But it was more than that. I found credit card statements I'd never seen before. Cards opened in both our names, using my income as verification. Cards I'd never authorized. Cards maxed out with charges I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. This wasn't just infidelity. This was financial fraud. At 8 in the morning, I called my bank. The woman on the phone listened patiently as I explained the situation. Unauthorized withdrawals, credit cards I hadn't opened, a spouse who had been stealing from joint accounts. I'm so sorry you're going through this, she said. Let me connect you with our fraud department. By noon, I'd frozen all joint accounts, reported the unauthorized credit cards, and started the process of separating our finances. Every dollar Daniel had taken, every fraudulent charge he'd made, it was all documented now. Evidence. But I wasn't done digging. I remembered Chloe's friend Mara, mentioning that Chloe had always envied my life. That got me thinking about Chloe's own finances. She worked in marketing, made decent money, but she'd always lived just slightly beyond her means. Designer clothes, expensive trips, an apartment that should have stretched her budget. I pulled up Chloe's social media, scrolling back through months of posts. There, a photo from 4 months ago of her at a resort in Mexico. The caption, much needed vacation. The location tagged a 5-star resort that costs thousands per night. I cross-referenced the dates. Daniel had told me he was at a work conference that same week. I had even helped him pack. My phone rang. Adam. I found something, he said without preamble. Chloe's been hiding money. I went through our joint accounts, and there are deposits I can't explain. Thousands of dollars over the past few months. From Daniel, I said. It wasn't a question. That's what I'm thinking. Riley, I talked to my lawyer. What they did, the financial stuff, that's not just an affair. That's theft, embezzlement. We could press charges. The thought sent a chill through me. Would you? Honestly, I'm considering it. They used us, Riley. They planned this whole thing while we were just living our lives, trusting them. They deserve consequences. After we hung up, I sat with his words. Press charges. Turn this into a legal matter, not just a personal one. Part of me wanted that. Wanted Daniel and Chloe to face real consequences, not just broken relationships. But another part of me just wanted it all to be over. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from Daniel. Against my better judgment. I listened. Riley, please. I know you're angry, but if you just let me explain, the money wasn't what it looks like. I was going to pay it all back. I just needed time. Chloe was going through some things, and I was helping her, and it got out of hand. But I never meant to hurt you. I love you. Please call me back. I deleted it before he finished. Every word was a lie wrapped in an excuse. That afternoon, I drove back to Chloe's apartment. Not to confront her. I was done with confrontations. I just needed to understand the full scope of what they'd done. I used the spare key I still had, knowing she'd be at work. Inside, the apartment looked different in the daylight. Less staged, more lived in. I wasn't there to snoop through her personal things. I was there for one thing only. Daniel's storage key. I'd seen it in his drawer at home. A small brass key with a number on it that didn't match any lock I knew. I'd asked him about it once, and he'd said it was for a work locker. But Daniel didn't have a work locker. He worked from home most days. I searched Chloe's apartment methodically. Desk drawers, kitchen cabinets, bedroom dresser, and there in her jewelry box beneath a tangle of necklaces, I found it. A matching key with the same number. My heart pounded as I pocketed it and left. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that looked like it asked no questions. I found a unit matching the key's number and opened it with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Inside was a carefully organized space that told me everything I needed to know about how long this had been planned. Boxes labeled with Chloe's handwriting. Designer clothes with tags still on them. Gifts Daniel had bought her that I'd unknowingly paid for. Hotel receipts going back 8 months, not 6. An extra phone I'd never seen Daniel use. And a folder. A thick manila folder labeled Plan B. I opened it with a sense of dread. Inside were printed documents, divorce settlement templates with my name filled in, financial calculations showing how Daniel would split our assets, or rather, how he'd take most of them. Apartment listings from 9 months ago, back when I thought our marriage was fine. There was even a timeline written in Daniel's handwriting. Phase 1, establish separate finances, complete. Phase 2, transfer assets gradually, in progress. Phase 3, secure new living situation, in progress. Phase 4, file for divorce, pending. I stood in that cold storage unit, staring at my husband's handwritten plan to destroy my life, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't about an affair. It wasn't even about love or passion or any of the excuses they tried to give. This was a calculated plan to take everything I had, my money, my home, my family, my trust, and leave me with nothing. Daniel hadn't fallen for my sister. He'd partnered with her to rob me blind. I took pictures of everything, every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence. Then I closed the unit, locked it, and drove straight to the lawyer's office that Lena had recommended. The lawyer's name was Patricia Chin, and she was exactly what I needed. Sharp, no nonsense, and clearly unimpressed by people who tried to cheat the system. I laid everything out on her desk: the bank statements, the screenshots of messages, the storage unit photos, the Plan B folder. She examined each piece methodically, her expression growing darker with each page. "This is beyond a simple divorce case," she said finally. "Your husband has committed fraud, multiple counts, unauthorized use of credit, theft from joint accounts, intentional depletion of marital assets with the intent to deprive you of your share." "Can we prove it?" I asked. "With this evidence, absolutely. The question is, how far do you want to take this? Criminal charges or just civil?" I thought about Daniel's voice on that voicemail, still trying to manipulate me. About Chloe's messages mocking my naivety. About that folder labeled Plan B, where they'd mapped out my destruction like it was just another project. "I want everything," I said quietly. "I want to protect myself, get back what's mine, and make sure they can't do this to anyone else." Patricia smiled grimly. "Then let's get started." Over the next week, I followed Patricia's instructions to the letter. First, I secured all remaining assets. I moved what was left in our joint accounts into a separate account, in my name only, completely legal since Daniel had been depleting them illegally. I changed all passwords, secured all documents, photographed everything we owned. Daniel tried to stop by the house 3 times. Each time, I didn't answer the door. The third time, he started shouting through the mail slot about how I was being unreasonable, how we needed to talk. I recorded every word. "Keep doing that," Patricia said when I played her the recording. "He's establishing a pattern of harassment. It strengthens our case." Adam called regularly to check in. He'd filed for divorce from Chloe and was working with his own lawyer to recover the money she'd taken. We'd become unlikely allies, 2 people who'd trusted the wrong family. "I can't believe we didn't see it," he said during one call. "All the signs were there." "They made sure we wouldn't," I replied. "That was part of their plan. Keep us comfortable, keep us trusting until they were ready to pull the trigger." "Well, they pulled it too early," Adam said with grim satisfaction. "And now they're going to pay for it." My parents called when they heard about the divorce. Mom cried. Dad was silent for a long time. "I never liked him," Dad said finally. "I know I never said it, but something about Daniel always felt off to me." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. Not accusatory, just curious. "Would you have listened? You loved him. You were happy, or we thought you were. I figured maybe I was just being an overprotective father." "And Chloe?" I asked quietly. Mom's voice hardened in a way I'd never heard before. "Your sister is not welcome in this house until she can explain herself. And even then, I know she's always been competitive with you," Dad added, "but this crosses every line. We're on your side, Riley, whatever you need." Their support meant more than I could express. For so long, I'd felt alone. But I was building a team now. Patricia, Adam, my parents, Lena, people who actually cared about me, not what they could take from me. Daniel left another voicemail. This one was different, angry instead of pleading. "You're being vindictive, Riley. Freezing the accounts? Really? That's our money, not just yours. My lawyer says you can't do this. You're going to regret making this difficult." I played it for Patricia, who laughed. "His lawyer said you can't protect your own assets from someone committing fraud. He needs a better lawyer. Save that recording. His anger is showing his real character now." 2 weeks after I found the storage unit, I received the divorce papers Daniel had filed. His lawyer was demanding 50% of everything: the house, the savings, the retirement accounts. He wanted alimony. He wanted me to pay his legal fees. Patricia read through them and shook her head. He's got some nerve. Let me handle this. Her response was devastating. She outlined every fraudulent charge, every unauthorized withdrawal, every lie Daniel had told. She included copies of the Plan B folder, the hotel receipts, the messages mocking me, and she demanded full restitution plus damages. "We're not settling," Patricia told me. "We're going to court and we're going to win." I started documenting everything in a journal: dates, times, interactions, attempts at contact, every piece of evidence that showed Daniel's character and intentions. Patricia said it might be overkill, but I didn't care. I wanted an airtight case. Slowly, I felt my power returning. Not the power I'd had in my marriage. That had been an illusion. Real power. The power of knowing the truth and having the evidence to prove it. The power of having people who actually supported me instead of using me. Chloe tried to call once. I let it go to voicemail. "Riley, please, you're my sister. We need to talk about this. I know you're angry, but you're turning everyone against me. Mom and Dad won't even speak to me. Can we at least try to fix this?" I didn't call back. There was nothing to fix. She had made her choice. One night, I drove past the house Daniel and I had bought together. Our house. My house now, if Patricia had her way. I sat in the car, looking at the windows, remembering the day we'd moved in. How happy I'd been. How full of hope for our future. That woman felt like a stranger now. She had been naive, trusting, willing to overlook red flags because she wanted to believe in love. I wasn't her anymore. I couldn't afford to be. I pulled away from the house and didn't look back. 3 weeks before, the court date, Chloe showed up at my parents' house during a Sunday dinner. I was there with Lena, trying to maintain some normalcy in my life. When Chloe walked in without knocking, the room went silent. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, eyes red and puffy. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Riley," she said, her voice breaking immediately. "Please, you have to listen to me. This is all a misunderstanding. Daniel and we never meant to hurt you. It just happened. And now you're turning everyone against me, and I can't do this anymore." "Get out," Mom said quietly. Chloe ignored her, walking toward me. "You're my sister. You know me. You know I wouldn't deliberately try to hurt you. I made a mistake, yes, but the way you're treating me—" "Stop," I said. My voice came out calmer than I felt. "Just stop, Chloe." "But you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots Adam had sent me. "I understand that you and Daniel mocked me behind my back. I understand that you helped him steal from me. I understand that you planned this for months while pretending to be my sister." Her face went pale. "Those messages, they're out of context. Are they?" I stood up, facing her. "Then explain the context where she is so naive is somehow caring. Explain how Riley's out of the picture is somehow not planning to destroy my life." "I never—" She looked around the room desperately, seeking an ally. She found none. Mom and Dad sat stone-faced. Lena watched with cold contempt. "Show them the folder," Lena said quietly. "The Plan B folder." I pulled up the photos on my phone. Daniel's handwritten timeline, the divorce templates, the financial calculations. Chloe's eyes widened as she saw them. "You kept evidence of your own crime," I said. "In a storage unit you shared with Daniel. A storage unit I now have access to. Everything you did, everything you planned, I have proof." Chloe sat down hard on the couch, all fight raining out of her. "Riley, please, if you go through with this, the legal stuff, I could lose everything. My job, my reputation." "You should have thought of that before," Mom said sharply. before you betrayed your own sister. But she's being vindictive. Chloe's tears turned to anger. She's freezing Daniel out of their accounts. She's taking everything in the divorce. She's turning you against me. She's she's protecting herself, Dad interrupted, from two people who tried to rob her. You don't get to play victim here, Chloe. I'm your daughter, too. Then act like Riley's sister, Mom said coldly. Until you can do that, you're not welcome here. Chloe looked at me one last time, mascara running down her cheeks. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed my life. No, I said quietly. You destroyed your own life. I just stopped you from destroying mine. She left, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. Dad reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, he said simply. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. Daniel lost his job. Adam texted me the news. Daniel's company fired him. His boss called me to verify some dates. I guess someone tipped them off about him lying about work trips. They investigated and found out he'd been falsifying expense reports too. I stared at the message, feeling a complex mix of satisfaction and guilt. Satisfaction because he deserved consequences. Guilt because I never wanted to be the kind of person who celebrated someone else's downfall. But then I remembered the Plan B folder, how he had calculated exactly how to leave me with nothing. The guilt evaporated. Good, I texted back. Adam's next message made me laugh out loud. Chloe called me crying, begging me to take her back. She said Daniel can't support her anymore and she's behind on rent. I told her to call her sister for help. What did she say? She hung up on me. I could picture it perfectly. Chloe realizing that her grand plan had fallen apart, that the affair she thought would lead to happiness had instead left her alone and struggling. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. That part was getting smaller every day. 2 weeks before court, Daniel's lawyer requested a settlement meeting. Patricia raised an eyebrow when she told me. They're scared, she said. They know we have an airtight case. They want to settle before it goes to trial and becomes public record. What are they offering? They'll split everything 50-50 if you agree not to pursue the fraud charges. I didn't even have to think about it. No. You sure? A trial could get messy. I'm sure. They plan to take everything from me. They don't get to negotiate now that they're caught. Patricia smiled. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. The week before court, Daniel showed up at my office. Security called me before letting him up, asking if I wanted them to remove him. I almost said yes, but something made me tell them to send him up. He looked terrible, worse than Chloe had. His clothes hung loose like he'd lost weight. His face was drawn and pale. When he saw me, something in his expression crumbled. Riley, he said, please, can we just talk? 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Talk, I said, not moving from my desk. He sat down heavily in the chair across from me. I know you hate me. I know I messed up. But the court case, Riley, if this goes to trial, I'll lose everything. My reputation, my career. You already lost your career, I pointed out. Because of you. The words burst out of him, angry and desperate. You told my boss about the work trips. You got me fired. You're destroying my life. I didn't tell your boss anything, I said calmly. But I'm glad someone did. He stared at me. You really have become vindictive. No, I've become careful. There's a difference. You tried to rob me, Daniel. You planned it for months. You partnered with my sister to systematically steal from me and destroy my life. And now that you're facing consequences, you want to blame me for being vindictive. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he said, and he actually sounded sad. Chloe and I, we thought once we were together, once this was all over, we'd be happy. But it all fell apart so fast. Because it was built on lies, I said. You can't build anything real on betrayal. He looked at me for a long moment. I did love you once, at the beginning. Maybe, I acknowledged. But you stopped long before I noticed. And instead of being honest, instead of just leaving, you decided to destroy me first. That's not love, Daniel. That's not even close. He left without another word. I watched him go, feeling nothing but relief that I'd never have to see him again outside of a courtroom. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, sterile and cold with fluorescent lights that made everything look slightly unreal. Daniel sat with his lawyer, not looking at me. I sat with Patricia, feeling surprisingly calm. The judge reviewed the evidence methodically. Patricia presented everything. The bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals, the credit cards opened in my name, the storage unit documentation, the messages where Daniel and Chloe had mocked me and planned my downfall. Daniel's lawyer tried to argue that the money had been for joint expenses, that the credit cards were a misunderstanding, that the messages were taken out of context. But with each excuse, Patricia calmly produced more evidence that contradicted him. The Plan B folder was the turning point. When the judge saw Daniel's handwritten timeline for depleting our assets before filing for divorce, his expression hardened. This shows clear intent to defraud, the judge said. This isn't a misunderstanding or a marital dispute. This is a calculated theft. Daniel's lawyer had no response to that. The ruling came down decisively. I kept the house, all remaining joint assets, and my retirement accounts. Daniel was ordered to repay every dollar he'd withdrawn or charged fraudulently, plus damages. The judge also issued a restraining order, preventing Daniel from contacting me outside of official legal channels. Furthermore, the judge added, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for review of potential criminal charges. Daniel's face went white. His lawyer immediately started talking about appeals, but the judge cut him off. You can appeal if you want, counselor, but the evidence speaks for itself. Your client engaged in a pattern of theft and fraud. He's lucky the plaintiff isn't pushing for criminal prosecution herself. Outside the courthouse, Adam was waiting. He'd won his case against Chloe, too. She'd been ordered to repay the money she'd taken and lost her claim to any shared assets. We did it, he said, pulling me into a hug. We actually did it. Yeah, I said, and felt the weight that had been crushing me for months finally lift. We did. Over the next few weeks, my life slowly took shape. I repainted the house, changing colors that Daniel had chosen, making the space mine. I reconnected with friends I'd let drift away during my marriage. I started running again, something I'd loved before Daniel complained it took too much time away from him. Chloe moved away quietly. I heard through family friends that she'd taken a job in another state, trying to rebuild her life away from the scandal. I felt nothing about it. Not happiness, not sadness, just a dull acknowledgement that she was gone. Daniel sent one final message through his lawyer, a letter of apology. I read it once. It was full of excuses and justifications dressed up as regret. I filed it away without responding. Some things didn't deserve a response. 6 months after the court case, I sat in my living room, in my house, surrounded by furniture I'd chosen, and realized I felt happy. Not the naive happiness I'd felt when I was married, built on comfortable lies. Real happiness, earned through surviving something terrible and coming out stronger. Lena came over for dinner, bringing wine and stories about her latest dating disasters. We laughed until our stomachs hurt, the way I hadn't been able to laugh when I was married. You know what's wild? She said as we cleaned up. You seem more like yourself now than you did before all this happened. What do you mean? You were always dimming yourself for Daniel, making yourself smaller, quieter, more convenient. Now you're just you, fully you. It's good to see. I thought about that after she left. She was right. I'd been making myself smaller, trying to fit into the shape of the wife Daniel wanted. I'd lost pieces of myself without even noticing. Hobbies I'd stopped, friends I'd drifted from, dreams I'd set aside. Now I was reclaiming all of it and discovering new pieces too. I'd started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I joined a book club. I'd even gone on a few dates. Nothing serious yet, but the possibility of it felt exciting rather than terrifying. One evening, I drove past the storage unit where I'd found the Plan B folder. On impulse, I stopped and went inside. The unit was empty now. Patricia had cleared out everything we needed for the court case. I stood in the empty space, remembering the shock and horror I'd felt when I first opened that folder. How small and powerless I'd felt, seeing their plan to destroy me laid out in black and white. But standing there now, I didn't feel small. I felt strong. They'd tried to break me, and I'd survived. More than survived, I'd won. I locked the unit for the last time and drove home as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Sunday dinner. Your father's making his famous lasagna. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the neighborhood settle into evening. A year ago, I would have been waiting for Daniel to come home, wondering why he was late again, pushing down the anxiety that something was wrong. Now I knew the truth. Something had been wrong, but it wasn't me. I raised my glass to my reflection in the darkening window. You didn't take my life, I whispered. You just made room for me to rebuild it. And this time, I was building it for myself. No compromises, no making myself smaller, no trusting blindly. Just me, strong and whole, and finally free. The house settled around me with comfortable creaks and sighs. Outside, the world continued on. People living their lives, making their choices, building their futures. And inside, I was doing the same. I'd lost my husband and my sister, but I'd found something more valuable. Myself. The woman I was meant to be, unfiltered by someone else's expectations or lies. Tomorrow, I'd wake up in my house, make coffee in my kitchen, and start another day of my life. A life that was finally, truly mine. And that was worth more than anything Daniel and Chloe had tried to take from me. I finished my wine and went to bed, sleeping soundly in a way I hadn't in months. No nightmares, no anxiety. Just peace. Because I'd won. Not because a judge said so, or because Daniel lost his job, or because Chloe left town. I'd won because I'd survived their betrayal and come out stronger. I'd protected myself, fought for myself, and rebuilt myself. And in the end, that was the only victory that really mattered. If someone you loved was quietly planning to destroy your life, would you have seen the signs before it was too late? Like this video if Riley's story connected with you, and subscribe for more real stories about resilience and justice.